Well, it's now time for the second whiskey review of the night. So, we have here Connemara. Connemara 12-year peated single malt Irish whiskey. This is also by the Cooley Distillery. Like I said, they do a lot of really interesting whiskeys. Nice wooden case, by the way. Now, this particular whiskey is interesting because it is actually more like a Scotch than an Irish whiskey. First off, it's peated. Secondly, it's only been distilled twice as opposed to being triple distilled. And thirdly, it was actually crafted by someone who went on to develop more scotches for the Aran distillery in Scotland. Um, so, all in all, it's very different from your average Irish whiskey, as are most of the Cooley distillery whiskies. And it has the most interesting nose. There's obviously there's peat in it, but it's not a high proportion of peat. So peat's kind of blending into the other smells here, as opposed to being the dominant smell and probably taste characteristic. So as you kind of pull away from it, focus. This camera of mine. Well, you don't need to see me too well in order to review whiskey. So, as you pull away from it, the first thing that hits you is, of course, the peat. And it kind of has like this wet cardboard smell to it, which isn't too pleasant, but you kind of get past that as you get closer. So, peat kind of mixes with the fruitiness of it. And the fruitiness is actually a very interesting fruitiness. I was like trying to replace it, and it's like it's something like I smelled before. And it's a very distinct smell that I hadn't smelled in a very long time. So, and that particular smell, and it took me about a minute or so to place it, was sour sap, which is this big prickly kind of fruit that's sort of like a durian, but not as stank. So when you get close to it, that's what you smell. It was just like this big old whiff of sour sop, that just comes out of the combination of the fruitiness and the peatiness of it. So the peat doesn't really have a smoke note to it, and that's how muted it is. So it's just like this strange sort of papery, wet cardboard smell that turns into fruitiness as you get closer to it. It's really interesting. As for drinking it, let's go and see. Interesting. The initial taste is the fruitiness. It just explodes in your mouth, and then immediately the peat takes over. And the peat is not sharp. It's a very mild peatiness. It's nothing like an Ardbeg or a Laufrog or something like that, where you're just hit by it. It's a very mellow peatiness. Reading reviews of this, it's like the 12-year didn't get as very good reviews as the regular Connemara. Um, and they said that a lot of the notes here become too muted as opposed to the younger blended version, which is a blend of 4, 6, and 8-year, as opposed to cask age 12-year here. Actually, I'm not sure if it's true cask age 12-year blend like the regular one is. But I'm getting to see why some people find it problematic in, I hate that word problematic. Well, troublesome in that all the edges have been sort of rounded off. So all of it kind of blends together in this sort of mellowy, not too sharp and not distinctive taste to it. Um, well, the sour sap is obviously distinctive to me, but for most people, it would just be a sort of odd tropical fruitiness to it. So one thing that people suggested would be to add a little bit of water. So I have about 10 drops of water in here that I'm going to add to this. By the way, the color is quite light too for a whiskey. I'm guessing there's absolutely no caramel coloring added to this. Even a lot of the best scotches do have caramel coloring added to it. So I have 10 drops of water, so hopefully this doesn't ruin it. I just hope it makes it a little bit more interesting. Try to clear my mouth a little bit. Immediately the nose is quite diminished. Peatiness is just gone now. And the fruitiness is kind of gone too. I may have added a little bit too much water. That was just 10 drops, by the way, and this is a very large glass. Interesting. So instead of the immediate fruitiness, now it's sort of like a well, it is a little bit fruity, but it's sort of like transitioning to a sort of toffee flavor. I'm guessing that the esters are more diminished, leaving those heavier bass notes to the sweetness there. Not that it's super sweet. It's about as sweet as you would expect a Scotch of a similar style to be. So it's not. It's still pretty dry. It's just an initial sweetness up front. While the peatiness is diminished in the nose, that sort of mid-palate peatiness is still there and quite apparent. It just kind of booms. The flavor sort of leaves, but it leaves that sort of peat dryness lingering. Yeah, not much smoke to it. It's just like a peaty earthiness. So yeah. So you wouldn't go and, mistake this for an Islay malt, Islay single malt. Honestly, due to the kind of weirdness of some of the flavors, like that initial note and sort of roundedness, I'm not finding too much complexity here. Just about 2 or 3 flavors, sort of. No, it's interesting for a try. It's definitely not a drain pour by any means, but at least this particular, the 12-year regular one, not cask strength, not extra peated. I don't think it's something I'm going to return to, especially at the price point, which was about a little over $60. And yeah, so looking online, I might have overpaid for this compared to the prices I've seen online. So, Connemara 12-year Irish whiskey. Interesting, but not, well, it is intoxicating. All alcoholic beverages are, but not aesthetically intoxicating. Well, these have been your whiskey reviews. Irish whiskey reviews for St. Patrick's Day. And if you don't like to drink, Pogue Mahone.